What is up, guys? We are live. Welcome to the Bags to Riches podcast. I'm your host, Zach Ginn. Today, I am with Dan Brault from New York. Dan is a real estate wholesaler out of there, and he is absolutely killing it. And he is going to share with you guys today how you can make $100,000 in your real estate wholesaling business this year. And also, he's going to give some of his awesome real estate wholesaling acquisitions and lead inbound secrets. Thank you so much for coming on today, Dan.
Zach, happy to be here, man.
All right, sweet, man. So I had you on, I think a couple months ago, and you shared a crazy $50,000 deal. And I know you got a lot of value. A lot of the audience got a lot of value out of it. So really quick, if someone didn't watch that video, who is Dan Brault and what are you all about?
Yeah. First and foremost, I am a husband and a father. So been married for a few years now and got two little kids, 2.5-year-old daughter and a 6-month-old son. Living up here in upstate New York in Rochester. And if you can tell by the books behind me, I'm all about personal development. Been into it as long as I can remember. I have this picture of Tony Robbins holding me up when I was like 3 years old. Been into it my whole life. So I'm all about constant growth, never ending improvement, and just learning as much as I can. Really into fitness and health. I've been in real estate for 5 years now, sales for 13, and went full time. I've been wholesaling for about 4 years. I've done flips, I've done rentals, I've done wholesaling, but just full-time wholesaling for about the past year. So just focusing on that. I stopped flipping and all that. So since then, gone all in on wholesaling, and one of the best decisions I ever made.
Oh, yeah, man. So let's get started. So you're in New York, which is a pretty tough state for wholesaling. I mean, it's not impossible, but there's a lot of guys doing up there. Rochester is interesting. So what is your story kind of getting into wholesaling and in real estate investing in general?
So when I first started real estate investing, I was in the medical device industry. So I was a medical device sales rep, which is a great gig. I mean, it makes 6 figures pretty easily and consistently. So I wasn't struggling by any means. I just knew that I wanted to be running my own business, doing my own thing, and have something that had more opportunity. So I got some rental properties. I started doing some flips. I found out about wholesaling because I bought a couple properties from wholesalers. I had no idea what it was until we got to closing, and I saw these guys, charge me 16 grand when I paid, 32 for the property. And I was, I maybe made 20 on the back end. So after that, after 2 of those, I was like, I just got to learn what this is all about. So started doing it a little bit here and there, but really just started to learn the marketing aspect of it so I could get my own deals. And then I would just sell a few of the ones that I didn't want to flip or keep myself. And after about 4 years of that, after some massive failures in the flip game, decided that I wanted to move towards something that was more in line with my skills and abilities, sales and marketing. And for me, I think that wholesaling, it's a sales and marketing business, and you don't need a construction background. So that's something I never had. So I always felt at this huge disadvantage when I was doing these big renovations, and I sort of had to trust these contractors, and I always felt like they were one step ahead of me. So I was always uncomfortable doing that. So I did a little bit of wholesaling on the side. Didn't really like it that much, honestly, at first. But that's because I didn't like my process. I felt like it was sort of uncomfortable. It was sort of awkward for the sellers, for my buyers, like showing the properties, bringing them through. It was always sort of weird and uncomfortable. And then when I decided to go full time, I mean, I just changed everything and approached it really differently. And I'd love to get into that because I'm sure there's some people listening that are either just starting out or thinking about getting into it. And, I'd love to talk about those mistakes that I made or what I would do differently or what I'm glad I did this time around.
Yeah, definitely. So, really quickly, so for first 4 years getting into it, like, can you explain kind of your starting process? Like, what was your first wholesaling real estate deal?
My first wholesale, I actually picked up on auction.com.
Okay.
And I did a double close. And I think I made about $7,800.
Wow.
And after that, I was like, I remember sitting there. This was actually when we were doing closings where we were all at the table together. Obviously not doing that with COVID, but so my buyer was there. I was there. I signed my paperwork. He signed his. My attorney passed over a check to me for $7,800. And I was just like hooked. Absolutely hooked. So that one, I marketed it out on on Facebook groups, on real estate investor Facebook groups. I think I put a post out on Craigslist. I actually had to break into the property to show it.
Wow.
So I don't advise that. Sometimes it happens. But so that's really how I started with wholesaling. That was my first one. Then I started doing some bandit signs, some direct mail, some Facebook ads, and now certainly advanced from there. But that's where I started.
Okay. And really quickly, I know you've said your story before. So, what is your quick big failure you had, and how did you get over it? And
Man.
how did that kind of help you out with your business now?
Yeah. So this was a few years back. I took on this. I was flipping, and I was doing well. I was doing some projects that were going really well. I was making a good amount of money, and I decided, I wanted to go bigger. I wanted to do more, and I took on a historic luxury flip.
Oh boy.
Historic was the first mistake. And luxury in this market in Rochester, also not a great idea. So truly like a one-of-a-kind property that we had to completely rebuild. Like it was this old, built in 1852 cobblestone building. I mean, super cool, but it needed a complete gut. I mean, except for the cobblestone exterior, we rebuilt the entire house. And I was admittedly way over my head. I was doing stuff I had no idea. I had never experienced anything like it before. I hired people that I was paying way too much for. They were doing jobs that I had no idea if they were doing it the right way or not, because I had never experienced that before. And, we ran into these massive issues, a $25,000 asbestos bill, the windows, because it was a historic property, they all had to be like the original windows. So we had to make them out of wood, use the original glass. I mean, I spent $75,000 on windows on a single family home. So there was like $100,000 of my budget, like suddenly blown. Like I didn't expect that extra $100,000. So $600,000 later, the house finally got done. And it was price drop until we finally sold it. But I mean, that project took a year of my life. It was the most stressful year I've ever had. I was there every single day because I was way over my head. I took on way too much. I had to borrow more money in the middle of the project because we were running low. It was just overruns on budget and timelines, and it was awful, like straight up awful. And then sort of at the same time, I was starting this other business for real estate development, and I had another guy running it who was a really skilled craftsman, like could build pretty much anything you could ever imagine. But I overlooked some of the other red flags because of his skill. And I made some bad choices. I overlooked some things I shouldn't have. And that business, he was running the crews and the jobs, and mid build, we were building someone's lake house. We had just finished the framing and we ran out of money. Wow. And we had $0. We had these big pieces of machinery. We had 7 full-time guys. I had to lay off everybody. I had to surrender the machinery. There was multiple pending lawsuits with the homeowner. Obviously, they weren't happy about having a half-built house. This was all at the same time as that other project was going on. And I mean, I wasn't sleeping. I was going to the doctor because of all the stress. I formed an ulcer. Like I could barely eat. And so after all this was done, I had a newborn baby. We had just gotten married. Like it was rough. After all that was done, we were selling stuff straight out of our house. I sold my truck. I liquidated my 401k. I was selling rental properties. I lost like over $350,000 that year, and I didn't make anything either. So, I mean, I was talking with bankruptcy attorneys. Like I was almost there. We got to the point where it was really bad. We were wondering if we would have to like move in with my parents, and I would just have to get a regular job, and we would just start from scratch, like literally nothing. Wow. So that was some pretty massive failures, but it also taught me a lot. And that series of events is the reason that I transitioned into wholesaling, because the things I was doing were way out of my element. And they were things that I thought sounded super attractive, and they seemed really glamorous, and they seemed like there was this huge opportunity, which for some people there is in that. But I was taking on too much too quickly. I overlooked a lot of things that I shouldn't have. And I tried to get stuff done on a timeline that led me to overpay people, because I didn't want to wait for the time to find a different contractor. I just wanted to get it done. So I overpaid people. And, through all that, after this all happened, I really learned about the power of relationships. And, you can imagine after all that happened, after these massive failures, going into ridiculous debt, almost going completely bankrupt and filing bankruptcy, my mindset was a little shook, and my confidence was shook, and my regular healthy habits and routines were all out of whack. And so the power and relationships of other people, and being able to rely on other people, it showed me the importance of that more than ever, and that I don't need to do it all myself. Because at that point, I was trying to do everything myself. I was charging hard. I was going big. I was going to do it myself. I was going to make it work. And it had paid off in the past in some pretty big ways. But then, sometimes you go too big too quickly, and big mistakes can happen. So through that, I learned that I don't need to be doing it all myself. There are a lot of people that are really good at a lot of things, and there are a lot of things that I'm not good at or that I don't like. And if I empower other people to be good at what they want to do or what they're good at, that as a result, I might not be doing as much personally myself, but as a team, we can do way more than I ever could on my own. And so all that, and I just go back to that relationships thing, because I mean, you talk with a lot of successful people, and your network, the people you surround yourself with, that is a major determinant in where your life goes. And if I look at right now, the people that I'm surrounded by right now compared to 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, I mean, it's a night and day. It's amazing the people that I've met since then, and actually the opportunities that have come up because I went through all that. So not saying I would ever want it to happen again, but I know it was part of my growth process.
I 100% agree. I mean, the people you were with at your healthcare industry, like those other employees, way different than other wholesalers you got to deal with on a daily basis. People in wholesaling are just way more positive. They're here to push you up, and they're more of an entrepreneur, like craziness compared to, I mean, where was I 5 years ago? Like dealing with none of these people too. So I 100% agree with you. That's a crazy story. So the next thing I really want to talk about here is fast forward to now. You have a very successful wholesaling business in Rochester. Really quickly, there's a lot of people in here somehow from New York City, the actual city part of New York, and they think they see my stuff. They're like, okay, I'm going to download your free contract and I'm going to go out there guns blazing by myself. Can you explain wholesaling in New York really quick and the process you have to do compared to the average wholesaler around the country?
Yeah. So New York is especially difficult. So there's two types of states. So there's title states and attorney states. We are lucky enough to be in an attorney state. And so what that means is that instead of a title company handling everything, now we have attorneys handling everything. And attorneys just like to make everything move nice and slow. So, I mean, you talk about in other states where you can close a deal in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That just doesn't happen up here. I mean, in the past year, the quickest I've been able to get a deal closed is 41 days.
Wow.
And that's like by far the quickest, by far. So like we have like a several month lead time. And for a lot of people, that makes it more difficult because people want the instant gratification. They want to get paid right now. And if you don't have that patience up here, if you can't sustain a few months worth of overhead and marketing, it's going to be pretty difficult. Like I'm getting paid right now for stuff I did last year.
Jeez.
So like the process is very different. The transactions coordination needs to be on a whole nother level, because when there's that much time going between signing of the contract and actual closing, you need to have a lot of communication with the buyer and with the seller and with the paralegals and the attorneys to make sure that everyone's getting done what they need to get done. Everyone's on the same page. People know what's going on. Because like the sellers that we work with a lot of times, they're in some sort of a situation where things aren't perfect for them a lot of times. And so they're just like already nervous and uncertain. And so like when 2 months goes by and we still haven't closed, like we need to be able to provide them with a level of certainty, like things are still moving forward. This is the current status. This is what's going to happen next. Like we sort of need to hold their hand even more so than in most other states. And just the level of regulations here, are a lot higher. I know a lot of attorneys in Rochester in particular that won't work with a wholesaler unless the wholesaler has the real estate license.
Yep.
So like I have my real estate license, and I kept it specifically for that purpose because I know regulations are probably coming. It'll probably be law sooner or later, so I might as well just keep it. And so, yeah, it takes a whole lot longer here. We have attorney approval on everything. And so, yeah, the process is just a lot more involved. And that's a big reason why people don't really come to New York to do wholesaling or invest if they don't live in New York, because it's just a lot more work.
There's some guys upstate doing very well. That's the one thing I feel like the guys actually figure it out, do very well up there.
Yep.
So in your business right now, obviously you had some setbacks, but you've kind of bounced back, doing very well. So can you explain your business right now, from basically top to bottom, from marketing all the way to disposition side? What is it all looking like?
Yeah. So right now, the majority of our leads, I do TV commercials. And
Saw
so,
that. I want to talk
yeah,
about that.
yeah, absolutely. It's a phenomenal lead source. I love it. And we still do some direct mail, real handwritten letters. And I'll put out the occasional bandit sign still, because they still work up here.
Wow.
So that's the majority of our marketing. So I'm a huge fan of the inbound leads. So cold calling, cold texting, all that stuff works. Don't get me wrong. Literally every lead generation strategy works. You just need to put enough time, energy, and money into it, and it'll work. And you keep refining it. Like, you can find 100 different really successful real estate wholesalers, and they're all doing something different for their leads. So everything works, guys. Don't think you have to do just one thing. Like, everything works, but you need to work it. Like, you need to work to make it work. So that's number one. Those are just the ones I do. And I love the inbound because we're never getting people calling like angry, like you might get with a cold call. Like, when you cold call someone, they might be pissed off because they're getting this call and it's intrusive and they don't want to talk to you. But with inbound leads, like, they saw my commercial, they know exactly what it's about, and they're calling us. So it's just a very different type of conversation. And for TV leads, the thing I love about TV is that there's almost no competition, because these are leads that a lot of times you can't buy lists for them because they're super recent. They're not getting contacted by other wholesalers. A lot of these people, I ask, what have they done so far to try to sell their property? They say nothing. I'm their first contact. And that's like the best thing you can hear. When you hear, I've talked to 5 other investors and they're all coming through, like, that's a lot rougher, and it's a lot harder to make those convert at a good price because you have so much competition. But with the inbound leads, I love that, they're hot, they're motivated, they're contacting me. It's a good conversation, and there's very little competition. So that's why I'm a huge fan of TV. It's not cheap, but it pays off big time.
Okay.
So if you have the budget, I highly recommend that.
And what's the average cost, you think, for someone who's going to try to get into TV, if they're looking on where they should be putting their money?
I think to really make it worth your while, you got to be ready to spend at least 10 grand a month.
Wow. Jeez.
So it's not for beginners.
No.
No.
That's crazy. And then I saw on Instagram, so you're putting your own face on there, right?
Yep.
Wow. That's cool, man.
It makes a big difference because I'm still personally going on the appointments.
Yeah.
So we do some virtual stuff, but a lot of it's still in person because we're just in Rochester right now. And so it creates sort of like a local celebrity factor. Like, when they see me on TV and then suddenly I'm in their living room, it creates a connection, and they open up a lot more easily. And, I've spoken with other guys around the country who also do TV, and they've found that when they personally go on the appointments, when they're the one who's on the TV commercial and they personally go on the appointments, they get lower prices than their other acquisition reps will get who are not the ones on the TV commercial.
Oh, definitely. That's crazy. So what's the percentage of all your deals coming in then through TV and direct mail?
So right now, we're probably 75% TV.
Wow.
I'm going to ramp up the direct mail again right now. I have like probably 4 months worth of direct mail ready to go out. So, that's the thing with business, is that it's not, progress is not a straight line. It goes up, it goes down. People leave, people don't work out. You have setbacks, And so, you need to expect that. And so that's why right now we had some personnel setbacks. And so that's why I have this direct mail just sitting here, because I don't want to have leads that we can't get to. And so I have some direct mail that I'll send out. So that's what we're doing there. We have leads managers who are handling all of our initial leads, and their job is essentially to vet the leads, to qualify and disqualify people. So they're there to disqualify the people that are tire kickers or that don't fit any of our funnels, whether it's a wholesale deal, it's a creative deal, it's a whole tail, or it's a listing. So if they don't fit any of those, we're disqualifying them as quickly as we possibly can. Or if they're qualified for any one of those, then they get the necessary information and set the appointment for me. And then they go to our acquisitions, which is right now I'm filling acquisitions. Most of the sellers, we go in person, go through our standard sales process, and I always sign right then and there. It's not, let me think about it and I'll get back to you and I'll send you a contract later. No, I do one call closes. That's it. And in my experience, if you're not getting the contract on that first appointment, you're probably not going to get it at all. Now, that's very different from a follow-up where you haven't yet set the appointment and you're still following up with people trying to get the appointment, and then you get it, then you still follow up. In my experience, if you've gone to the appointment, you don't get the deal when you're there, you can still follow up with them because you might still get some over time, but just expect that the majority of those are not going to turn into deals.
I agree. It's crazy the amount of like all of our deals that we've just gotten. Like, we got to get it done that fast. I mean, how's the competition like in Rochester?
Interesting thing in Rochester. So like I was saying, New York is a tough market for just to start a business and really get it going. There's just so many restrictions that slow things down. So there are no, like, the iBuyers aren't here. Yeah. Those big national companies that buy in all the major cities, like, they're not in upstate New York. There are a lot of small operations where it's one or two guys partnering together and they're sort of just, making it work. They're maybe doing 1-2 deals a month. There are a lot of those type of guys. Not very many people who have real professional organizations that they heavily invest in. And I think that's a big reason why, over the past year, we've gained so much traction, because I'm building a professional organization and I am investing a lot back into my business to make sure that we have the systems and the processes and the people to really dominate this market, because we are on the cusp of just becoming the dominant wholesaler in this region. And that just really gets me excited.
Oh man, there's a lot of money to be made there. And I know you can definitely do it. So starting out though, with your real estate acquisitions, like, you got some pretty good secrets out there. So for someone watching this and, they're making part-time, full-time, 40 to 60K, they're trying to hit that 100K. Obviously you spend more than 100K for just TV ads per year. But for someone trying to make $100,000 in wholesale real estate this year, what is the advice that you can give them to help them out? Yeah.
So a few things. One, you need to treat it as a business, because that's what this is. So if you treat it as a hobby, it's just going to be that. And hobbies are things that you don't make a lot of money at. So there is huge opportunity in real estate wholesaling. Like, one deal can change your life. Literally. Like, one deal, you can make 50, 60, 70 grand, 100 grand. Like, there are people that, like, in one deal can make more than they've ever made in an entire year. And you can make it in a few hours. So it's completely possible. the chance of that happening if you're not running it like a real business are super low. You might get lucky, but probably not. So you need to treat it like a business. And if you don't know how to run a business, learn how. Literally, all of this stuff is learnable. And if you look at most of the successful wholesalers, like the most successful wholesalers in the country, they don't all have their MBAs. Like they didn't go to business school. They learned this stuff. They read books. They got coaches and mentors, and they took classes, like all this stuff. Like they watched podcasts and listened to audiobooks, and they read books, and they took, like, there's so many ways to educate yourself. Like self-education is the way to get forward. It's not formal education. Like formal education will get you a little bit, but self-education is the way to really propel yourself forward. But then you also need to take action on it, because so many people get stuck consuming information and then they don't do anything with it. And some people call it perfection, but it's really just procrastination. Because they say, I need to know that it's going to work. I need to be certain. Guys, nothing is ever going to be certain. Like you just need to have enough information so that you're not making a stupid decision, and you just need to go for it. Like at some point, there's just a leap of faith, and you got to bet on yourself, because no matter what you do, no matter how much you prepare, something will always happen that you don't expect. And you're going to have to learn along the way. Like no one, no matter how much you prep, is going to be ready for everything that comes your way. So you just have to adapt. You have to learn. Like that's part of growth. You grow through challenges. You grow through learning how to handle new situations. And then the next time it comes around, you already know how to handle it. And so, like for the people that are looking to make that leap, like, yes, educate yourself. Yes, constantly improve, but put it into action. You have to constantly be making progress. And what I think is another major mistake is people talk about massive action. And yeah, that sounds super sexy. It sounds awesome. Like I'm going to take this huge action. I'm just going to do this big thing. You know what? That's not what creates lasting success. What creates lasting success is the little daily improvements that you make every day. It's the reading for 30 minutes a day every day. Like that's not this monumental thing. I'm not reading 20 books in a day. I'm not reading for 24 hours straight. Like I'm just reading 30 minutes a day, and I'm absorbing that information and I'm acting on it, and I'm signing up for these mentorship programs and these coaching groups and these masterminds, and we'll meet once a quarter, and we'll have calls once a week. And these aren't like these massive things. And me making a little tweak in our process here or there, like it's not this huge change that changes everything. But when you're doing that every day and every week and every month and every quarter, then suddenly you have this year that's massive. And suddenly it looks like you're this huge success. But what people don't see is those little boring daily things that you've done all the way up through there. And then it seems sexy. Then it seems awesome. But it's not 0 to 100. It's 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And so many people try to just skip all those steps. And that's just not how you create a lasting business.
Definitely. To play devil's advocate, if someone's watching right now, they're like, well, it's easy for Dan to say this. He's got tens of thousands in marketing. I mean, if someone's trying to get consistent deals coming in, how can they do it on a limited budget?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly didn't start with this budget. I started with handwritten bandit signs.
Wow.
So, you go out, you go to Home Depot or order them on Amazon, get some just, 16 by 24 bandit signs. You can get a staple gun, or you can get the stakes to put them in the ground. You can handwrite them if you can't pay for the printed. You can even, and you drive around and you put them around town. You get a vanity phone number, so it's not ringing to your personal cell phone. You can get a Google Voice number. Like, this stuff isn't that expensive. You pay, I don't know, $10 a month, something like that. Or you can even just drive for dollars, like drive around and see what houses are around there that look like they're not being cared for, or they might need some work. You can go and door knock. Like, that doesn't cost you anything. You're doing one of two things. You're either paying for it in your time, or you're paying for it in dollars. Like, and if you don't have the dollars, then you pay for it in your time. Or you can hire someone else to do it and you pay them on commission and you give them a cut of the deal. Like, there are a lot of ways to get deal flow without a big budget. It's just that those things take more time, so that as you scale, a lot of times you're just not able to do those types of things anymore, at least not yourself. So you hire those things out, or you scale them up to something that's more automated. So, you can write postcards, you can write little sticky notes and leave them on people's doors. You can write a quick letter. You can print them. You can print up 100 letters and go leave them in people's doors or on people's cars, on their windshield. You can write bandit signs. You can find stuff on Craigslist, on Zillow. I mean, there are a lot of ways to find deals for cheap.
Yeah. I mean, there's no excuse right now in this business. I mean, there's so many free stuff. What are some of your secret lists you've been kind of doing with your direct mail that's helped you get good response rates?
So I love that. Secret lists. People are always looking for that secret list. Yeah. You know what? So there's these standard lists that everyone's pulling. I don't think there is a secret list. Mm-hmm. I think that it's just like anything. Everything works. Every method of lead generation works. And so, you have your high equity, your blanket high equity, and then you can stack that with a vacant. So you have a vacant high equity home. You get people that have owned it for, 20 plus years, or they have, you check if there's any code violations, the water shutoff list. I mean, there's a million lists you could pull. It's for me, high, like the standard high equity vacant, like that always performed well for me. But for me, what really brought my direct mail game to the next level was sending out that handwritten direct mail. Because the open rate through the roof, like almost 100% open rate when someone sees something that's actually handwritten, and it's an actual handwritten letter. And so it just sticks around a lot longer. Someone gets a call and they hang up and they forget about you. Someone gets a letter, they might keep it on their fridge and it might stay there for months. And so they're not going to forget about you. And so for me, that made the big difference over like a special list.
Okay. So are these handwritten letters you're doing? Like, are you handwriting them, or is there like a service that's doing the auto pen thing?
So it's actual real by a real person, handwritten letters. And some people might think like, man, that's crazy. Like I don't have the time for it, or paying someone to do that would just be so ridiculously expensive. It wouldn't be worth it. Like, I'm not going to pay like $4 a letter, which is what some of these services are charging. But when I started doing this, I was like, I got to figure out a better way to do this, because the response rate for postcards and stuff like that, it's just like terrible. You have to send out thousands just to get a deal. And so I developed a system where I'm actually getting by real people, real handwritten letters for less than 60 cents a piece, which compared to what you would pay if you went anywhere else, it's like a 300% difference in the number of deals you can get on the same ad spend. I did the math. And so that's something that I'm launching as a course, showing people specifically how to do that. Like here's how exactly, step by step, everything you need to know about how to set up your own operation to send out real handwritten mail for less than 60 cents a piece. And then for the people that don't want to go through all the work, I'm going to be launching a service as well that will do all that for them. Price will be a little bit higher, but you won't have to do anything. It'll just be a mail house of real handwritten letters. Your response rates and your number of deals just go through the roof. So that's something I'm working on that I'm super excited about.
Cool, man. Looking forward to it. And so the next thing I really want to talk about here is your acquisition side. How did you develop your acquisition skills? Because you haven't been wholesaling for like 20 years like some of these other guys. You've kind of developed them very well, very fast. So how did you do that?
So I got into sales while I was in college. I learned the Sandler sales method when I was in college. I did a financial services internship, and I'm so grateful that they taught the Sandler sales model. So I learned that 13 years ago, and I've been in sales roles ever since then. So, I've learned every sales model and methodology under the book. Sandler is still my favorite. And a lot of people have probably saw me also on Steve Trang's podcast, and they know that I was part of his mentorship program at one point. And so that brought a lot of stuff back for me for the Sandler sales model. So what I do, I haven't been wholesaling for 20 years, but I have been selling professionally for 13. So I think I did the math because I never worked 40 hours a week. I always worked like 50, 60, 70 hours a week. So, I don't know. They say you need 10,000 hours to master a skill. I have like 30,000 something hours in sales. So it's like, I've been doing this a long time. And then, the fundamentals of sales are pretty simple and straightforward. It's just, you got to apply it to a new situation. So, getting the prospect emotionally involved in the sale. And that's the number one area where I think a lot of people make mistakes, is that they keep everything way too intellectual, and they go into price at the wrong time or way too early. They're not really getting to the real pain points. They are focusing on these surface level issues, which aren't the real problem. And so when you're not addressing the real problem, you're not going to get a real good price. And I always like to say that the price is a reflection of the problem that you're solving.
Yep.
And so when you're solving the right problem, when you're solving a big problem, and when you get them emotionally connected to the fact that you are solving a big issue for them, that they have some real feeling behind, they are no longer thinking about getting the highest price possible. They're thinking about, what do I need to do to solve this problem? And that's where you need to get them. How do I get rid of this pain? How do I eliminate this frustration or this worry or this anger? How do I get rid of that? And now they're not thinking about, how do I get top dollar for my house? They're thinking about, how do I get rid of that pain? And then you go into price. That's right away. Now you go into price. And they're still emotional. And so you get the best price right then. So I think people they go into the price conversation at the completely wrong time in the completely wrong way. And frankly, a lot of people don't know how to get into that at all. They go into these appointments and they're just winging it. They don't have a plan. They don't have a system. They don't have a process that can produce repeatable, consistent results, because they're not treating it like a business. And you can't expect any level of consistency or success if you're not doing something that you can measure off of and that you can tweak and know what is working and know what's not. If you're just winging it and doing something different each and every time, and you're not actually tracking anything, how are you going to know what's working and what's not? You'll just have no idea, and you're going to feel uncomfortable going in, and the seller's going to feel uncomfortable because you don't really know what you're doing, and like, you might say some weird stuff, or it might just be awkward or uncomfortable, and you might be too aggressive, or try to close really hard. Like, if you have to close really hard, you did something wrong. Like, the way that I do my sales method, like, I close so soft because I did everything before that. Like, when I get to the closing part, it's just like a natural conclusion to the appointment. It's like, okay, so now this makes sense. Like I said in the beginning of the appointment, like, if this makes sense, this is what would happen next. And here we are. You're telling me this makes sense. So now we sign the agreement. Like, it's very soft. It's very straightforward. And what I just said aren't my exact words when I'm at the appointment, but that's sort of what's going on in my head. It's that it's very smooth. And so people that are getting into this, or even in this right now, that aren't having the level of consistent success that they're looking for, they're probably lacking true systems that will allow them to have that consistency and predictability.
I can tell you the soft close beats the hard one every single time. I've read so many Sandler like books. I mean, the way I really like his stuff is because you're not selling, you're basically having the seller sell themselves in their head. And I think it's so much different than the average wholesaler, especially one in my market. Like, they'll go out there guns blazing.
Yep.
I mean, it's absolute killer. I mean, you mentioned before that you basically, people give the offer on the wrong time and you kind of make it pretty natural. So when you're walking on the appointment, can you give us a quick brief in like a minute, your process to go through if like you get stuck, like, oh shoot, what do I do now? Like, what's kind of the flow of it?
If you get stuck on the price?
No, like, hey, like, you're walking, you talk about the house, and then you get the offer. Like, what's kind of the flow for you?
Yeah. So first thing I do, so the upfront agreement. So whatever you want to call it, it's a series of agreements where you're basically setting the agenda and getting permission. So when I go there, I'm getting permission to ask questions. I'm getting permission to ask personal questions. I'm making sure that they still have the amount of time that we need. I'm telling them what's going to happen on this appointment, what they can expect. I'm figuring out if they want to cover anything in particular. I'm going over, hey, if we end up working together, great. If not, that's fine too. And that's truly how I feel, because if it's not a good fit, then I don't want to work with them anyway. And I say, so if it's not a good fit, that's totally fine. If it is a good fit, here's what would happen next. And then from there, so I get the upfront agreement right out in the open. I confirm with them that I'm there to buy a house. And when I'm there, I'm either looking for a yes or a no. Either one's totally fine. But if I hear anything other than a yes, I just take it as a no. And like I was sharing with you before, if I'm not getting a yes right then and there, the chances of actually doing a deal is almost zero. Yeah. So I just say, when people share with me that if they say anything other than a yes, if they say, let me think about it, I want to talk with this person or that person, I say, when people tell me that sort of thing, it almost always means no. And so if I hear anything like that, I'm just going to take it as a no. And right off the bat, that just creates a huge difference in their mind. They look at you differently because they aren't used to people saying that. They aren't used to salespeople coming in and telling them that they can say no, and that I might say no. I might tell them that I'm not interested in buying their house. And I tell them that. And so I just take away all the pressure and I get them to agree to everything I'm about to do. So there's no surprises. There's no hard close. There's total agreement on everything that's about to happen. And that right there, it eliminates 99% of the objections that you're going to get. And in my opinion, that's the best way to handle an objection, is get to it before they ever bring it up. And then you don't have to deal with it. If you bring it up first, it's never going to be an issue. And so then I go through the house, I take my video, I'm shooting photos while I'm taking the video. It's a super efficient way to do it. Most phones can do that right now. You just shoot a video, and while you're there's a little button for a camera, and you just take photos while you're shooting the video. You have a full video and photos all at the same time. Your buyers will love it. And then I go into the pain funnel, and a lot of times I haven't spoken with these sellers before. And so I like to use, softening statements or transitions to pretty much get to say whatever I need to say. And so I need to get them back into the pain funnel where they're talking about their motivation, their pain points. And so I'll say something like, I know a lot of this will probably be a repetition of a conversation you already have had, but would you just catch me up to speed? I mean, what has you even considering selling this property? And then they'll go into their story. And I've found that instead of just saying, so why are you selling? Or when I enter it with, a little understanding, like, I know you've probably already had this discussion, but would you just catch me up to speed? Like that right there, that statement reduces so much of the pushback that I ever get. And then they just open up. Then I go through the full pain funnel, really dig down to get that true motivation, that true feeling behind why they want to sell. Then I strike on price. So as soon as I hear something like, yeah, it's really frustrating, it's really disappointing, some emotional language, then I go straight into price. So what price range did you have in mind? And then a lot of times once they're at that point, once they've given me the pain, a lot of times you'll just get the price you need right off the bat. Yeah. But you don't want to respond to it the way that it's like you think it's a great price. You pretty much respond to it the same every time. You respond like, oh man, that's, a little higher than I thought it was going to be. And then you can, there's a lot of different tactics. You can use hypotheticals. You can use, well, this is what other people are paying, or, if someone were to offer you this, what would happen then? There's a lot of ways to go about doing it. And then there's simple, it's from there, it's a very simple progression. If you agree to a price, say, okay, so now, if I can do this, solve this problem, and what would happen next? And they say, well, you'd buy my house. And they're pretty much closing themselves at that point.
Wow. Okay. And are you still following the Sandler method? So you're following the Sandler method of doing it, but are you kind of doing other methods where you're kind of still like pushing back and leaving? Like always be leaving? Like, are you kind of doing that too?
Oh yeah. I do a lot of people call it slacklining or pulling back, or yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about it when I explain it, it's just like dating. So if there are two people and they're sort of like the initial part of dating, and like one person's pulling away, the other one senses that and they start to go after them. Or if one person's going after too hard, the other one starts pulling away. And so it's that same thing. So if you start pulling away, like, you know what, I don't even know if this is a house I'm going to buy. And they'll be like, whoa, wait, you don't want to buy my house? Like, what? I can go down in price. Like they'll start coming after you. And so it's the same way. Like, that's why I tell them, like, I might not buy this house. Or, are you okay if I say no? Like, I might say no. I might say that this isn't a house that I'm going to buy. And that sort of thing. It's just, they don't hear that from other buyers. They just don't. And it creates this completely different perspective and puts you in a totally different light. And to be better, you have to be different.
100%. It's such a funny analogy. I use it all the time, but it's true. So the last part here is you're getting great deals here, but you're in Rochester. So how are you selling these deals? You said you're doing videos, pictures. It's helping you a lot. How are you disposing these deals for like some massive fees that you're getting?
So number one way I think in the current climate we're in is real estate investor Facebook groups. It is so easy to get a large handful of active investors right on these groups. Your city, every city in the country probably has a ton of them. I mean, you can post stuff on there. You can interact with other buyers. You can learn about what they're looking for. You can look at posts, see what another property someone else has posted, and see who's commenting on it, and see who's posting their email. Say, send me the deals, send me the details. Like, contact those people because they're obviously buyers. See who's the most active in those groups. Like, that stuff, I mean, that's a super easy way to find regular, consistent buyers. So that's always my number one, is that's how I initially build lists. Then you create relationships with people. And so you have your top tier, whatever you want to call it, buyers. Most wholesalers, in my experience, have a small handful of buyers that they sell the majority of their deals to. So, I have like maybe 5 or 6 guys that buy 90% of my deals.
Yeah.
And then for some of the other stuff, then you go and farm it out and you go to your next tier of guys. And then you might post stuff on a Facebook group here or there. You might post it on Craigslist. I mean, I have a whole series of events of here's our first step, here's our second, here's our third. By the end of it, now I'm contacting realtors to see if they have any investors in that area. I look on the MLS. And so this is actually a really powerful way to get a ton of buyers. So you look on the MLS, look for similar properties in the area that have sold recently. And you can look for one of two things. You either look for properties that needed work that were purchased cash, and you look at who represented the buyer.
Yeah.
And then you contact that real estate agent and you say, hey, I saw that you represented a cash buyer on this and this transaction. I'm wondering, do you represent other investors? And more often than not, in my experience, what I've found is that when a realtor works with one investor, they work with multiple investors. And so now you have one connection that has a handful of buyers, and they will help you sell it. And in a lot of cases, every realtor is a little bit different. But if it's a flip, then they are happy to just bring the deal to their buyer, and because they know that they're going to get the commission on the backside when that flipper ends up listing that property on the market. So that's one way to find through realtors. The other way is to look at flips that were done on the market, see who's selling that property, who's representing the seller, who's the realtor, and contact them and say, hey, I saw you're representing this property, this transaction, looks like it was a flip. Again, same thing, wondering if you work with investors. And then, hey, I have this deal in the area, wondering if they might be interested in it. Like, that is a super easy way to get a lot of buyers through just one contact.
I mean, that's huge. I mean, just go straight to the source, the MLS.
Yep.
There's other services there if you don't have MLS access, but that's some pretty good stuff. Some questions from the audience here, guys. If you want, comment below your questions for Dan, and Dan will help me out here. Let's see here. Zach, I'm cold calling today. What's up, Donna? OG Fisher wants to ask you, can you be successful with texting only?
Absolutely. So texting has changed a lot recently.
Oh, yeah.
It was with all the regulations and everything and the carrier restrictions, that's changed a lot. But I still know some guys that only do texting and some guys that are doing it really successfully. So for a while, for several months, texting was my main lead source. I got a lot of deals from it. I know if you want to hit me up on Instagram at Action Dan Brault. I have a buddy of mine. I think he does like 10 wholesale deals a month and like 30 flips a month. Like, this guy's doing a lot of deals. And he just started texting again, and his response rates are through the roof through this new method he's using. So I can hook you guys up if you're interested. So yes, definitely you can be successful with texting.
Cool. And then it says, Dan, what is your direct mail course coming out? You mentioned on Steve Trank's show that you had secrets with a very high response rate.
Yeah, man. Gosh, I've been working on it. You know, just like I said earlier, when I took on a little too much, when I had those massive failures, I have a big appetite, and I am trying to accomplish a lot. So now that I've hired some more team members to take more off my plate, so I'm not any longer in the 19 out of 26 seats in my business. Now I'm able to work on a lot more of that stuff. So I plan on having the direct mail course out within the next month. Will be completed. So that'll be the course and the service if you're looking for those. And again, best way to contact me about that would be on Instagram at Action Dan Brault.
Sweet. And then obviously, I think this got asked before you did, but you're still using TV ads. So
yeah, TV ads, the best.
Right. Sheesh, LOL. Patience is a virtue. Kareem from New York City. All right. So we do have some New York people watching this. This is depressing. Oh my gosh. I'm a newbie about to start in Connecticut, so it's great to see someone from this area doing great on the show. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Dan the man. Nice niche to market Boston. Sweet, sweet, sweet. This guy is the real deal. Sweet. Got some people from Texas.
Thanks, Aaron.
Anyone who is held by Tony Robbins as a kid is destined for greatness. I absolutely love this. Let's see here. Facts. Raymond says, I'm the New York market's tough here in New York City, but inspirational. Seeing people. Sweet, sweet. All right. That was huge. Big gem. Boom, boom, boom. I write my own. All right. So let's see. Next question we found here. All right. Just a lot of gems here. Do you mail for clients or only yourself?
Yeah. So we're going to be mailing for clients. That's going to be launched at the same time as the course. So again, the two different options. One, if you want to do it all yourself, I'm launching a course on just here's exactly how you do what I do. Or if you want us to do it for you, we'll do it for you. Sweet.
And D wants to know what software you found best for texting.
So I've only ever used one texting platform. So I can't really speak to the comparison from one to another. I used Batch Lead Stacker. That's the one I use. I had great success with it. I know there are a handful of great texting services out there. I know that any sort of a texting platform now combined with another service can get you around a lot of those carrier restrictions and blocks that are currently in place. So, you know, that could be a whole nother hour that we could talk about that stuff. Obviously, we don't have that time right now. So if you do have questions about that, again, hit me up on Instagram and I'll connect you with my guy.
All right, let me pop your Instagram. It's Action Dan Bro, right?
Yep.
Sweet. And then last couple questions here. What service for the handwritten letters? Obviously. There. What's up? And do people have to opt in for texting?
So honestly, I stopped texting a few months back. I know, so I can't speak to where the current restrictions are at right now. So I wouldn't be a good person to answer that question.
Sweet. For me, no, but I'll get into that a little later. So last couple questions for you. Obviously, we don't have all the time in the world here, but something I really wanted to ask you is, you got a great wife, you have great kids, you have a great business. How are you right now managing all that stuff? Because it seems a little crazy doing all that stuff.
Yeah. Leveraging the time and skills of other people. to me, when I hired my first virtual assistant, it changed my world. Guys, if you aren't using virtual assistants, you are missing out big time. I have 3 full-time. I'm about to hire a 4th. They can do so much for you. They can, and the amazing thing is that they have a better work ethic than most US workers, and they're a fraction of the price. But don't feel bad about that, because honestly, what you're paying them is probably a good working living over there. And a lot of VAs are from the Philippines, and so all of mine are. And you know, they're doing really well right now. I just gave one of them a raise, and she was like through the roof happy. But she provides so much value for me that I couldn't not give her a raise. And I mean, it was literally an extra $1 an hour, but to them, it's like a ridiculous amount because of the conversion rates. And so I utilize other people. Like, I let other people be great, because I can be good at a lot of things. Like, that's what got me part of the way to where I am now. It's like, I was able to do a lot of the stuff on my own. I did it for a long time, so I know how to do everything. But I'm not the best at everything. And, you know, I have VAs in positions now that they've been in them for a month, and now they're better at that than I ever was. And they didn't start out that way. Like, they started out and they were maybe 50, 60, 70% as good as I was, and they made mistakes. That's going to happen. But now they're at the point where they're just as good as I was, or they're better than I ever was. And so you have to utilize other people's time and experience and block off your time. So, I mean, this podcast is a rare exception of when I am not having a hard stop at 5 p.m. Eastern, because, you know, 5 to 7, it's dinner time with my family. We're getting the kids ready for bed. We're putting them to bed. Then I'm spending time with my wife. But I block off time, like between 7 and 9 a.m., it's family time. Between 5 and 9 p.m., it's family time. And I might be doing work after that. I might be doing work before that. It's very often, you know, I wake up at 4 a.m. It's very often that I'll be doing work early in the morning, and on weekends too. But I love it. Like, I can't get enough of it, because it just gets me going, because I see what we're building here, and it's super exciting. So, you know, my wife's on board with the vision. She sees everything that we're doing. She's super supportive. So it's really, I think, you know, time blocking and having the people around you that support you and your vision, and that can take stuff off your plate so that you can be great in what you do best, and they can be great at what they do best.
Boom. That's it. Last couple questions here. So obviously you said you have a direct mail course coming out. Is there anything else on the horizon that you wanted to talk about or share in the future for you?
So, you know, I also have a sales course, a 6-week sales course that it's super in depth. I mean, everything that I do from A to Z during my entire sales process, from how to handle that initial sales call to make sure that you're disqualifying quickly those people that are not good fits. And so you're not wasting time, so that you can get to those people that do deserve your time and where you should be spending your time. How to move them through the appropriate funnel, how to exactly what to say when you're at the front door with these sellers, how to the exact scripts, how to get the biggest discounts, the best deals, and how to have a proven system for doing all this. And so you're not winging it. And, you know, this course, it's not cheap, because I put so much into it, and I want people to really value it, because the things that people invest in, that's what they value the most, and they're really going to take action. And so, you know, it's affordable enough where people can get into it. I do offer payment plans, but it's, you know, 13 years of my sales experience put into 6 weeks of courses. And so that you can just take this, use it forever. You have lifetime access, and that you can just take this and just take your wholesaling business to the next level and start getting those big deals that'll change your life.
Boom, man. That's it. Last question I always ask on the podcast. So I started out $300, 17, no money, no knowledge. If you started out $300 in Rochester right now, and you're back at 18 years old, what would you do to become the next Dan Bro?
I just got to start by saying that's super impressive that you did that. I love it. I would say, man, I would do exactly that. I would probably go to Home Depot, get a Sharpie, a big one of those Magnum Sharpie markers, some bandit signs with some stakes, get, like 50 of those, get a bike and get a cheap bike and start riding around looking for houses, putting up my signs and knocking on doors.
That's it. I mean, what, 20 grand, 17, changed my entire life. I mean, you got your first $700-800, changed your life. There's no excuse, guys. So before we hop off, I'm getting a lot of questions, guys. Every Thursday, which is tomorrow, I go live for a lot more hours. I'll probably go live tomorrow at 3 and answer all your questions. Obviously, Dan's got a lot he's got to do. So hop on tomorrow. But my last question for you is, do you have any parting thoughts for the guests before we hop off?
Guys, so there's a reason why I have action in front of my handle on my name. And, if you do anything, if you guys took anything from this, take action on it. Like, just, it doesn't matter how small, just start that momentum, start going in that direction, take a small step, make that call, schedule that meeting, send that text, do something to start the process, because it's that first step that's the hardest. But after that, it's just momentum. You just build it, you just grow, and it's little by little, and it just becomes a habit, and success will then become a habit. So guys, just take action. If you learn something, take action. If you read something, take action. If you find something interesting that you want to try out, take action.
Oh, that's it, guys. Thank you so much, Dan, for coming on.